I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
I'm an old soul, got a funky sound. Gonna sing a song, turn the world around.
What's going on, everybody? Dr. Vasquez coming to you live at the end of April 2025. And I'm going to do a quick spontaneous video right now. You're watching it happen. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm a little bit pissed that I see so much carrageenan in so-called modern foods, you know. So last month, for example, I was in Mexico, and much to my surprise, I saw a lot of junk food in Mexico, like beyond what I could have imagined, basically. So, for example, one time we stopped. We were in a bus, and we stopped for a bathroom break. And the place where we stopped, I guess it was a gas station, and it was just full of garbage food. And so I progressively, over the last couple of weeks, have become sensitive to this topic. Not like I wasn't sensitive to it before, but it's kind of back on my radar, I guess. The other thing that pissed me off, and I know a lot of you are surprised that I could actually get pissed off at something, but it does happen. But actually, it was just this week. I went down to a little cafe for breakfast, and I wanted some milk at home just to make coffee. Obviously coffee with milk. And so I bought this little bitty container of milk just to get by until we went to get real groceries. And I always read labels, of course, but I assumed that this that this little container of milk was going to be benign. But hell no, it had carrageenan in it. So that's what kind of pissed me off. And then today we actually went grocery shopping, and of course I had to spend a lot of time reading labels. Not because I like reading labels, but because I've become, again, sensitized to this thing about all of our food being just loaded with unnecessary chemical garbage. So again, part of that came up while we were in Mexico, because just like in Argentina, the food is impressively adulterated. And I think that that's obviously not done by consumer choice. I think it's political. I think that big industry works with government, which works with drug companies and obviously medical organizations, just to keep people as sick and stupid and poisoned as possible. And I guess perhaps we don't have a lot of things we can do against that other than become aware of it and at least remove our personal participation from that dangerous game. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now. I haven't looked at this research in literally decades. Last time I actually talked with a researcher who specializes in this. Last time I talked to her was about 2011. Yeah, so that makes it 14 years ago. Her name is Joanne Tabacman. Also sounds almost like tobacco, but it's Tabacman. And she was, and perhaps still is, one of the preeminent researchers on carrageenan. So very briefly, carrageenan is a food additive. Originally, it was derived from seaweeds, so it sounds benign and it sounds natural. Maybe by now it has a synthetic source, but at least traditionally it was derived from seaweed as a flavor enhancer and a thickening agent. So that's why you see it added to like soy milk and almond milk, and even apparently now even natural milk. And that's where it's probably the most dangerous. You'll see it also added to toothpaste, and that's just to supposedly improve the texture. Not like I really care. I mean, if I'm brushing my teeth, I'm not thinking, wow, this has such a great texture. Not like I need carrageenan. In the context of toothpaste, it's probably not too dangerous because you spit out the toothpaste. You know, you're not sitting there eating a tube of toothpaste. But a lot of people, of course, are drinking a lot of almond milk, rice milk, soy milk. And like I said, even normal milk now has carrageenan in some cases. So again, it's a so-called flavor enhancer and thickening agent, which means it's used as kind of a texturizer. And that's the excuse for using it. The problem with carrageenan, the three main problems that you want to keep in mind for carrageenan, and if you consider yourself like a food expert, then you should know this, but I'm going to tell it to you now. And I haven't looked at the research in, like I said, more than 10 years, but maybe something new has come up. But, even 10 years ago, the problems with carrageenan are as follows. Number one, it contains certain sulfur moieties, as we say in biochemistry, that get degraded by the gastrointestinal microbiome to become hydrogen sulfide. And as you all know, hydrogen sulfide is a mitochondrial toxin, therefore a neurotoxin, but also it's toxic to the gastrointestinal epithelium. And for at least that reason, if not others, the consumption of carrageenan is associated with the production of inflammatory bowel disease, such as Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, all the way to gastrointestinal cancer. So, number one, you want to think about the production of the microbiome-derived production of carrageenan. So you can't, when you think about food these days, you can't really just think about the food molecules. You have to think about what's this going to get turned into in the gastrointestinal tract. And obviously, in the case of carrageenan, it gets converted into hydrogen sulfide. That's a mitochondrial poison localized to the gastrointestinal epithelium, which then increases the risk for colon cancer, inflammatory bowel diseases. The major ones are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. So I would consider that to be maybe one category. The other category is that carrageenan is famously immunosuppressive. So imagine all this pandemic hysteria that we just went through for the past 6 years, talking about, vulnerability to immune suppression, and you got to, support immune function, apparently only with drugs and vaccines. But failing to mention that carrageenan, which is, of course, abundant in the food supply, is a known immunosuppressive agent. So very clearly, carrageenan is known to be immunosuppressive. So then why is it added to foods? Maybe because it's immunosuppressive, and your politicians, the drug companies, and the medical organizations want you to be as sick as possible. So again, when I think of carrageenan, I think, in no particular order, but I think of its conversion into hydrogen sulfide, which is a mitochondrial poison, and that branches into inflammatory bowel disease and intestinal cancer. It's known to be immunosuppressive. And when you could add those two things together and maybe start thinking about extra intestinal cancer as well, specifically breast cancer. So last time I checked, breast cancer was causatively linked with carrageenan consumption. So again, I'm just trying to keep this pretty simple and pretty brief. But since I had to be in Mexico looking at all that processed food, I was thinking to myself, damn, why doesn't anybody talk about this stuff anymore? And, like for me, this is an old topic. So I don't go around, trumpeting about carrageenan because I've known about it for so long. But apparently it's still an issue because I see it every day. Every time we go to the grocery store, I see products that have carrageenan. In Mexico, I was just amazed at the amount of junk food that's getting imported into that country. And again, it's probably for political reasons, like when countries have international debt, one of the ways they pay off that international debt is to make agreements with other countries like, hey, we don't have the cash to pay you, talking to the government, but we'll import your junk food and give us a tax credit or a debt credit for importing your country's junk food from your food companies. And that's one of the ways that poorer countries, or I should say indebted countries, That's one of the ways that indebted countries pay off their debt when they don't have the cash, is they start importing junk from other countries. And that's one of the reasons that you see so much junk food in compromised countries, where that's the way that they're paying off their international debt, is by importing junk food. So it's like the worst I've ever seen is Puerto Rico, Argentina, and now Mexico.
We economic hitmen have managed to create the world's first truly global empire, and it's basically a secret empire. We do it many ways, but principally we identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. The money never actually goes to the country. It goes to our own corporations to build big infrastructure projects in that country that help a few very wealthy people, but don't benefit the majority of the people who are too poor to buy electricity or have cars to drive on the highways, and yet they're left holding a huge debt that they can't repay. So we go back at some point and say, you know, you can't pay your debts. Give us a pound of flesh. Sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Vote with us on the next critical UN vote. Allow us to build a military base in your backyard. Something along these lines. And when we fail, the jackals go in and either overthrow or assassinate these leaders. And if the jackals fail, as they did in Iraq, then we send in the military. I don't think the failure is capitalism. I think it's a specific kind of capitalism where we've created what I consider a mutant viral form of capitalism. And this mutant form of capitalism, which I think is really a predatory form of capitalism, has created an extremely unstable, unsustainable, unjust, and very, very dangerous world. I've met a lot of terrorists. I've interviewed them for books. I've never met one who wanted to be a terrorist. They're desperate people. If we want to get rid of terrorism, we must get rid of the root causes, that cancer that is destroying our whole system. Because I think it's really important that we understand today we cannot have homeland security unless we understand that the whole planet is our homeland.
So anyway, trying to focus here on Carrageenan. Look at labels and don't eat that stuff. It's a mitochondrial poison, it's immune suppressive, and apparently can trigger a variety of different cancers. So don't eat it. Thank you much. I'll get more videos and such on the website as soon as I can. As most of you know, my big archive, which I thought was safe, my big archive of videos on Vimeo was recently erased because they said I was talking vaccine misinformation because I criticized the New York Times interview with Anthony Fauci because I thought it was just a public disgrace. I'm going to review that video, maybe tonight, but probably another day, and see, we'll review what I said. So it was exactly 2 years ago, and it just got censored in April of 2025, even though I did the original video in April of 2023. So apparently the pandemic censorship is still going strong because they're still censoring stuff and spending time and human resources to review that, which means they're doing it for a reason. And the reason they're doing it is because they're expecting it to pay profits. They're not doing this for free. They're doing this as business people looking for ways to corral public opinion in a way that's going to pay them profits. They're not wasting their money doing this. They're doing it. They're spending the money and human resources now because they're planning another pandemic. So anyway, like I said, I'll try to keep this short. Take care. I'll get new info to you as soon as I can. Bye.
I'm an old soul, got a funky sound. Gonna sing a song, turn the world around. I'll whoop that ass, you know I got the moves. Spank that ass, I'm gonna make you blue. I ain't no player, I'm just here to shake. Hump that ass, no time for heartbreak. I'm the one who brings the rhythm to I keep you dancing till the morning.